Morning light filtered softly into the room as Wan's eyes fluttered open. She froze the moment she realized she was snuggled against something. Confused, she tightened her hold slightly, feeling a steady warmth wrapped around her. Slowly, sleepily, she opened her eyes, and her heart nearly stopped. Jungkook was right there, too close. His face was just inches from her, his warm breath brushing against her neck, sending an unexpected shiver down her spine. His tattooed arms were wrapped securely around her waist, and to her she noticed that her own arms were clinging to him just as tightly. Her small fists clenched in his shirt. One's eyes widened in shock. Her heart nearly stopped. Her thought went dry, her mind blanking completely as she stared at him with wide doe-like eyes. Panic surged through her and she tried to wiggle out of his hold. But the moment she moved even slightly, Jungkook's arms tightened around her waist. Slowly, he opened his eyes. He looked at her, taking her in shocked, innocent expression, then pulled her a little closer to his chest. In a deep, husky morning voice, he mumbled, "Sleep for a while. You were all restless last night." One froze. Her eyes widened even more. Restless last night? She couldn't remember anything. Her heart began to race uncontrollably. Was it me? She thought frantically. Did I hold him like this all night? Did I sleep like this with him? She shallowed heart, embarrassment rushed through her. Jungkook watched her quietly for a moment, his gaze curious yet calm. Then without another word he pulled her closer again and closed his eyes. One gulp, gathering her courage. Her voice came out soft yet shaky as she whispered, "Jungkook, I'm going to be late for college. I have a test today." He opened his eyes once more and looked at her for a brief moment before losing his grip around her waist. "Okay," he said simply, his voice deep. "Go and freshen up." She didn't wait another second. Wine immediately slipped out of the bed and hurried towards the washroom, almost running in a flustered state. After she disappeared inside, Jungkook quietly sat up on the bed, his gaze following her retreating figure. A small, rare smile curved his lips as he watched her, so innocent, so flustered, running away in embarrassment. Wine and Sia were sitting across from each other in the canteen. Their test was finally over, and now they were having lunch. While eating, Wine's mind was somewhere else. After a moment, she looked at Sia and whispered, "Sia." Sia glanced up at her, her mouth still full of food. "What happened?" Wine hesitated, thinking for a long moment before speaking again, her voice almost inaudible. "Do you think my clothes are presentable? Like, are they good?" Sia gulped her food and frowned slightly, looking at her carefully. "Why, what happened?" "They are good." One shook her head immediately. "No, not like this. I mean, not classy and presentable, you know." She looked still confused. "But you always wear clothes like that. Why so suddenly?" One couldn't form a proper answer. She slowly lowered her gaze, biting her lower lips. "I don't know," she mumbled. "It's just suddenly come to my mind. I mean." Sia glanced at her briefly moment, thinking about something, then immediately blurted out, "How about we go for shopping today?" Sia's eyes immediately light up. "Let's go," she said excitedly. "Let's buy a few clothes, something that looks good on you. You already look beautiful, but still." One shook her head immediately. "No, it's not needed. I just casually thinking. It's really not "Yeah, it is." Sia cut her off firmly. "We are free this period anyway. We should go shopping and hang out together." I can buy something for myself too. I have wanted to go for shopping for a long time, but never had a reason. One shallow slowly. Should she really go buy something for herself, something classy, like for a secretary wears? She thought for a moment. She had a little money saved, enough to buy at least one decent outfit. One looked back at Sia, who was still waiting for her answer, eyes hopeful. After a moment later, slowly, One nodded her head. I guess this will look good on you, Sia said, holding a dress up in front of One. One lowered her gaze to the dress. It was really beautiful, simple yet elegant. Quietly, without letting Sia notice, her eyes slipped to the price tag. Her heart sank. It was far too expensive. Without showing that she had already seen the price, Wine quickly shook her head. No, I don't like it. Sia looked at her in disbelief. Why, it's really nice. It would look good on you. Wine made her eyes briefly. Still, I don't like it. Sia sighed, then placed the dress back on the rack and moved ahead. Continued to browse through the store for herself and for Wine. Wine also started looking around to the store, her eyes wandering over the dresses. But more than the style, though, her attention kept slipping to the price tag. She couldn't just buy anything. The price mattered too much to her. Then her eyes stopped at a particular corner of the store. A dress was displayed there. She recognized it instantly. It was the same one the secretary had worn that day. Without realizing it, Wine's feet carried her towards it. She reached out, her finger brushing over the fabric, tracing its smooth texture. Slowly she lifted the price tag and checked it. Her eyes sparkled. It was still a little expensive, but not too much. Something she could afford with her savings. Her thought began to drift. Should she buy the same dress? Did Jungkook like this kind of dress? It wasn't like she wanted to impress Jungkook. At least that's what she told herself. She didn't even know what he liked or disliked, but seeing the secretary standing beside him, both of them looking so perfect together, something stirred in her innocent mind, a quiet urge to look like that too. She bit her lower lips, still lost in thought. That's when Sia came up behind her. Do you like this one? She asked immediately. Wyan turned to look at her quietly. Sia nodded at the dress. It's good. I really like formal style like this. You can wear it casually too. It's not that bad at all. You should buy it. This is exactly the kind of classy dress you were talking about. She said it in one breath. One stared at the dress, still silent. After thinking for a long moment, she let out a deep sigh. Maybe, just this once, she decided she should buy it. Wine was sitting on the hospital bed, the doctor examining her, while Sia stood beside her, concern written all over her face. After a few moments, the door creaked open slightly. Wine's eyes snapped up. Jungkook stood there, his gaze soft yet filled with concern. His expression was unreadable, but the warmth in his eyes betrayed a hint of care. Wine's heart began to racing at the sight of him. With slow, deliberate step, Jungkook entered the room. His movement was heavy, almost commanding, and when he stopped in front of her, his eyes never left hers, as if censuring her for any sign of injury. Sia, standing beside Wine, looked at Jungkook, her eyes wide with confusion. She didn't understand what was happening. Mr. Jeon, you're here? The doctor asked, surprised. Jungkook's eyes flickered to the doctor, cold and unreadable. How is she? His deep voice carried an authority that filled the room. The doctor hesitated for a moment, then replied carefully, she is fine. May I ask who is she to you? Wine's heart pounded faster. Sia's confusion deepened, her eyes darting between them. Then Jungkook spoke again, his voice deep and cold, filling the room with a sudden tension. I'm her husband. The word echoed heavily in the air. Sia froze, her eyes widened in shock, her mouth hanging open. Wine immediately closed her eyes, knowing now Sia knows about her marriage. Sia slowly turned her gaze towards Wine, who still had her eyes tightly shut. Oh, the doctor said softly. I didn't know that. He smiled assuringly before continuing. She fainted due to stress and maybe shock. There is no major injury, so there is nothing to worry about. Jungkook nodded quietly. Just take care of her and everything will be fine, the doctor added before leaving the room. Silence filled the space. Sia stood there for a few moments, staring at Wine quietly. Then she slowly turned towards Jungkook. Suddenly she bowed slightly and spoke in a shaky voice. Actually, sir, I should leave now. Jungkook nodded. Thank you, he said in a deep voice. Sia nodded quickly, still nervous and shocked, unsure of what to say. After one last glance at Wine, she quietly and quickly left the room. After Sia left, Jungkook quietly sat down beside Wine. His gaze slowly drifted to her hand, more precisely to her elbow where a small bandage had been placed. Without a word, Jungkook gently reached for her hand, his thumb softly caressing the area near the bandage, slow and careful as if afraid to hurt her again. His touch was so light that sent goosebumps down Wine's spine. Then Jungkook looked up at her, his face calm but serious. Did you get hurt anywhere else? He asked in a deep voice. Wine slowly shook her head. Embarrassment started to wash over her. She began to think that she had been bothering him too much, that maybe he was irritated by her presence. A moment later, Jungkook spoke again, his voice deeper and certain this time. Now, can you explain what you're doing at the shopping mall instead of being in college? One stayed silent for a moment. Then quietly she spoke. Actually, after the test, Sia insisted we should go for shopping since it was our free period. That's why. She paused, lowering her gaze, and after we finished shopping, I don't know what happened suddenly. Her words tailed off. She didn't know how to explain it. And after a few seconds later, she whispered, I'm sorry. Jungkook's eyes softened immediately. In a calm yet gentle voice, he replied, It's okay. Wine hadn't expected that. She looked up at him, quietly staring for a moment, trying to read his expression. Then Jungkook suddenly stood up. Take a nap for a while. I'll go talk to your doctor about your discharge. As he turned to leave, Wine instinctively reached out and grabbed his waist. Jungkook stopped. Slowly, he turned back towards her. Realizing what she had done, Wine quickly pulled her hand back. Her heart began racing wildly in her chest. She slowly lifted her gaze to meet Jungkook's eyes. Her doll-like eyes filled with nervousness. "Are you angry with me?" she asked softly, almost innocently. Jungkook's heart nearly stopped at the sight of her like that. For a moment he just looked at her, then he stepped closer. Unexpectedly his hand lifted and gently cupped one side of her cheek. With the back of his finger he softly caressed her cheek. Softly. Wine's heart was pounding so loudly she could hear it echo in her ears. In a calm, deep voice Jungkook spoke. "Why would I? Is it your fault?" Wine looked at him silently. Then he continued, his voice steady but warm. "It was never your fault, so why would I angry with you?" His thumb brushed her cheek once more before he stepped back. "Rest," he said softly. "I'll be back." With that Jungkook turned and left the room. Wine remained seated on the bed, frozen, her cheeks burned. Her thoughts tangled beyond control. Her heart was still racing, each beat loud in her ears, as she tried to understand what had just happened. Jungkook entered his bedroom quietly. The first thing he noticed was Wine, already asleep, lying peacefully on the bed. Her breathing was slow and even, her face calm in a way that made the room feel unusually still. Without saying a word, Jungkook walked towards her and stopped beside the bed. After watching her for a moment, he reached for the first aid box on the nightstand and sat down beside her. Slowly, gently, he took her hand in his, careful not to wake her. Slowly, he removed the bandage from her elbow, where she had been hurt. He opened the ointment and gently applied to her wound. The touch light and precise, as if even the slightest might disturb her sleep. Once he was done, he looked at her again. She was still sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of him. Slowly his hand lifted to her cheek, the back of his fingers caressing her cheek, moving gently and deliberately, tracing her feature as he looked at her with the soft, unwavering eyes. After a long moment he mumbled in a low, husky voice, almost a whisper, "Sleep well. I hope there is no nightmares tonight." He withdrew his hand slowly and stood up. As he turned, his eyes fell on the shopping bag resting on the couch, the single bag she had bought today. After placing the first aid box back on the nightstand, he walked over and picked up the bag, heading towards the cupboard to put it away. Just as he was about to put it away, his eyes unintentionally caught sight of the dress inside. He froze. His brow frowned almost instantly. He stared at the dress quietly. It was the same one his secretary had worn that day when Wine had glanced at her. Yes, he remembered it clearly. How she had been watching his secretary with a quiet admiration, then glanced down at herself as if she was comparing. At that time, he let it go. Hadn't thought much of it, but now, seeing that same dress that she had brought today, it all started to make sense. The look on her face that day, the insecurity in her eyes. He wasn't a fool, not blind enough to miss it anymore. Now, knowing the truth that she had been insecure, silently comparing herself to someone else, his chest tightened, emotion tangling inside him, and for the first time, he didn't quite know how to feel. But one thing was clear, that it hurt.